warning me? Were you trying to tell me so I didn't do this dance with my hands?
No, I just had to burp and then I burped again.
Hi.
Hi. This show is called You're Doing It Wrong.
You're doing it wrong. Do you want to do it? We're gonna do it so wrong today, Mia.
Oh my god. We're doing the episode that nobody asked us for.
Nobody wants it. They're like, please don't do this episode.
Why would you ever talk about this?
Because we're basically what we're doing is we're preempting our own cancellation. I'm like, just cancel me now.
Yeah, so that when stuff comes out about us later, people can be like, well, they did do that podcast. Remember that episode?
That one episode, incest.
The one about incest.
This is the one about incest. So trigger warning, incest. Yeah.
Yeah, and everything related. So like non-consensual encounters of that, possibly familial childhood instances of this. Just know that we are going there.
We're going there. I feel like we should start off post trigger warning with the caveat of like how this conversation came up.
Sure.
So we were in the car and were we talking about the new Game of Thrones show, or did I make that up retroactively?
I don't think so, because you just mentioned it to me the other day, and I said, I don't think you've ever mentioned it before, because I said to you, for what felt like the first time, I hate that show.
Yeah, understandably.
Yeah.
So I guess just quick, there's this spin-off of Game of Thrones. It's called like House of Dragons or some who cares? It's not a spoiler, but the main girl gets with her uncle. And for some reason, over the construction of the show, you're kind of rooting for it and you kind of want it to happen. And it's like, oh, and it just sort of brought up a thing for me where I was like, yeah, like just let people marry their hot uncle. Like, what the fuck?
Why not?
And then we were talking about incest in your car.
Yes, remind me. What?
I don't remember. I just remember we were talking about incest, and then I said,
we should do an episode.
Yes, well, I think what I first said was, Mia, you know that I am a victim of incest, technically. Yes. I feel weird using that term, but...
Victim?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. As you know, the court found me a victim of incest. Wow. So, to disclose, again, we've already given a trigger warning, but I was raped by a member of my family when I was 6. Welcome to the show, everyone. It's 10:40 in the morning.
Risdon, I love you so much that we could just laugh about everything you just said. It's so fucked up.
If you can't laugh, what are you gonna do? This was also a really long time ago. I have had a lot of therapy. So anyway, I feel like it is important for us to say that, just that like this isn't, I feel like we have a lot of different opinions about this topic, but to be clear, like I have the worst version of this that I think we can all agree we don't like. Yeah. Non-consensual family power dynamics.
Child.
Thank you. We're not condoning that. Is that the right word? We're not being like cool. No one thinks that's cool. Not anyone. I don't even think the guy that did it thinks it's cool. Let's be real. The state of Massachusetts does not think it's cool. I'm gonna tell you right now, really great way to go to jail for the rest of your life. So
wow. Yeah, nobody thinks that's okay. And we're certainly not gonna be spending the rest of this podcast trying to... I'm sorry, I'll just shut up.
No, you're perfect.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, how was your weekend?
Oh, it was great, actually.
My heart stopped.
I honestly don't even remember what I did specifically on the weekend, but just everything is great right now. I'm on cloud 9. All my friends are telling me they're so happy for me that I'm falling in love. It's really cute.
That is really cute.
Yeah, it's really nice. How was my weekend? I ran into my dear friend Risdon and we got lunch.
Oh my god, that was such a cute story.
Yeah, that was so cute.
And we ran into a boy that I hadn't been responding to his text messages because I was busy and tired.
He was a hottie.
And then you were like, oh my god, he's so hot. And I was like, you're right, he is hot. And I went out to talk to him in the street and he's like, oh, I thought you weren't interested. And I was like, no, I'm interested. You're really hot. We should go out.
And then you came back and I was like, did you break the news to him? And you were like, oh no, the opposite.
I'm going out with him. He's really hot.
Okay, can I tell you a funny story about how I learned what incest was?
Yes, God, please.
Okay. So when I was 4, my cousin, why is that funny?
Because it's incest and it's hilarious.
Okay, when I was 4, I had a crush on my cousin who was like, I don't know how much older than me he is, like 6 or 7 years. And we went to Disneyland, and there's a really cute picture of us at Disneyland, like holding hands, and I have like Minnie Mouse ears on. So then I said to my parents, I'm gonna marry him.
Which is like, yeah, great. Love that for you.
Sure. Made sense to me at the time.
Yeah.
And my dad said, well, you can't, because you don't do that with your cousins. And then 25 some odd years later, I told this story at his wedding. And people thought it was a lot funnier than I thought they would. Anyway, that's how I learned what incest was.
I think we also need to just pause here really briefly and name all of the hot members of our families, because I think that's, yeah. So I have my family's all really hot. For context, I'm not the pretty one. So, and I'm like, yeah, they're all babes. Okay. I'm the weird one in my family. Obviously.
I'm the weird one too. I stick out like a sore thumb on one side actually, but not so much the other side.
Yeah. So I do have a hot cousin. He's, I guess, like 10 years older than me, that has like, he just has like this, there's some Italian from like his father's side. I think he's got this like gray curly hair, and I'm just like, damn, you're a hot Gen X guy. He like hangs out with bands like Garbage and like,
what?
Do you know what I mean? Like he's like cool with like those Gen X-y bands, and like invites me to concerts, and like now is like in love with this really hot woman. And I'm just like, yeah, you're really hot. Like, I think it's okay to just be like, I have hot people in my family.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't understand why that would be a problem.
We're starting off light.
Yeah. My family, I mean, geez, my whole family is like, they're all very attractive, beautiful. Yeah, like, I mean, I have one cousin on my dad's side, hey Kai, if you're listening, and she is like routinely gets told by strangers, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. She's like drop dead gorgeous. Yeah. And has been forever. Her sister is also really striking. And then, I mean, my mom's whole side of the family, everyone's just really attractive. And it's like, but it's like, I don't know, then we like hang out in like suburban Pennsylvania, and it somehow like neuters it's just like, we're all just, you know, I don't know, a lot of them are like nurses or social workers or preschool teachers, and like it just feels really wholesome. But then objectively, when I kind of step out, I'm like, wow, this is like a really attractive bunch.
Wow, look at all these hotties.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the thing is, it's like, if you're both hot, like, why would you want to make more hot people? Like, I'm just like trying to be like logical about it. I'm like,
I mean, you know, okay. So when I taught this rom-com class last year, we watched Clueless, and it's based on Emma. And she dates she's like in love with her stepbrother. They're not even related.
You should give a spoiler alert for the movie that came out 30 years ago, probably. Yeah.
All right, spoiler alert. If you've never seen Clueless, get on it. What the fuck is wrong with you?
I have a tradition. I watch that movie every year on my birthday. Just so you know.
Cute. I love that movie.
It's great.
Yeah, and so I watched it, and I was like, oh, cute. And it makes so much sense to me that they would fall for each other. They met when they were teenagers. Their parents got married, you know, later in life. And he's sweet, and she looks up to him a little bit, and like it makes total sense. And I went into this class, and immediately people were like, but the incest, like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And I was like, literally, what are you talking? They're not related. They're not related. And they didn't even like grow up together. So it's not even like there's like the weirdness of like them being raised as brother and sister. They were completely independently raised of each other. Like, I don't know.
I think there was like a part where it was like, because I just watched it. It was like, he's like, you divorce wives, not children. And they were married for like either 4 or 5 years. So in theory, he was like in the house at some point. She was in the house at some point for like 4 years. Right.
Yeah.
But like, it wasn't she's now 16, right? She turned 16 in the movie and he's.
Right. I mean, that's the issue. The issue is that he's like that much older than her when she's like 16 or 17 and he's like in law school. I think he's in law school.
He's undergrad at UCLA.
Oh,
I just watched it. And
thank you.
And she is turning 16. She's 15,
okay.
turning 16 because her birthday is after Ty's and she is
right.
like, I'm older than you. And Ty.
R.I.P.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Just always have to say. Okay. And also like even the age difference, I remember being in high school, you know, sophomore, junior, and like I had friends who were dating freshmen in college,
mm-hmm.
sophomores in college, and like it was, you know, I don't know what that, it's like hard to say, right? Age is tricky. I don't know.
Well, I feel like having done some like neurobiology stuff that I just really feel like you're developmentally an adolescent until you're like 25, basically.
Right. So they're both adolescents. However, mm-hmm. there is a power dynamic due to the age.
Yeah.
And yeah. Anyway, I was really surprised that people were like so disgusted by the so-called incest because I was like, I just don't see incest here.
Right.
But obviously I've come to understand, and you as well, I think, that I have like rather unusual opinions on incest. I just ordered a shirt from my friend MI, who's been on my other podcast, that says unusual morals.
Yes. Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it's from like the Lavender Scare. They were like doing research and they found this phrase, unusual morals. And I'm like really excited to rep a shirt like and that. And I've been accused of being a moral relativist. And I say accused like with like tongue in cheek because I'm like, yeah, I mean, there are, right. And there are cultures who encourage cousins getting married.
Right. Yeah, we were saying, you know, I mean, you can look at like royal lineage or certain classes. It's like considered you have to marry within that, right? Yeah. And
I have a friend.
Well,
I have a friend from Iran who was telling me about like when she was a kid, like the parents in the family would like be looking at the babies and the toddlers and being like, oh, those two would be cute together, you know, and it's like, it's the cousins. It's all the cousins.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Rami deals with this on his show in a really cool and very funny way. I mean, it's,
Well, and like we were talking about too, that like in certain cultures, it's like really important to marry within the culture. Like,
yes.
You know, like Judaism.
Right. Old, like I said, old world Judaism. I don't really know what that means, but like, yeah, I mean, there's a reason why like when two Ashkenazi Jews are gonna make a baby, they're supposed to get genetically tested to see if if it's likely that they would have a baby with Tay-Sachs. And then a lot of times people end up having to have, you know, second and even third term abortions. One of my cousins had to do that. It was really sad, but it's also like, that's you know, Judaism has, or some interpretations of some Jewish texts say that when a pregnancy is threatening the parent's life, that it's actually required that you have an abortion. And I've been like waiting for the Supreme Court case on this, you know, like religious freedom to have an abortion as opposed to like being restricted by this like legalization of Christianity.
Mm-hmm. You know, in Massachusetts, they make you do that anyway. I thought this was everywhere, but in Massachusetts, you have to have a blood test before they'll give you a marriage license or something because they want to make sure you're not related.
Yeah. Okay. So one more thing to say about the Jewish inbreeding, and then I want to say something on that. So Jewish inbreeding, there's so much of it that we have our own, like, other people have this, but it's really, really, really common, this gene mutation in Ashkenazi Jews that I have that is also like sort of the underlying original factor that caused all my health issues. it's an MTHFR gene mutation. You can have 1, 2, or 3 of 3. And I have 1 of 3, and it causes like an inability to break down certain vitamins. You have to, which is the process called methylation. So you have to take pre-methylated vitamins.
Oh.
Anyway, that's all to say, this gene is largely believed to be responsible for what is like colloquially called Jewish tummy, where like most of us can't digest all kinds of stuff, you know, and then the anxiety that comes with that or causes it, it's a vicious cycle. Anyway, that's because of inbreeding. But, you know, this thing that you said about Massachusetts, I knew of someone, I think she was a teacher at my Hebrew school, where she met someone, fell in love, they got engaged, and then they discovered that they were estranged first cousins.
So just first cousins is just regular cousins.
Yes.
Right. So like
regular cousins. Their parents are siblings. Right.
Okay. But they were estranged. The parents were estranged.
Right. So they didn't know that they were related. And like that's an instance to me where I'm like, I have no moral qualms with that. I mean, I don't really have moral qualms with reveal. I don't really have moral qualms with incest. I think that largely like the moral panic around incest is like a moralization of science and like Christianity co-opting science and then like anyway, but in a case like that, I'm like, there is nothing weird, creepy, abusive, invasive, non-consensual about this. And if they genetically are not putting a baby at risk, which by the way, it takes generations typically to put a baby, generations of inbreeding to put a baby at risk. Yeah, like it's rare that it's like the first instance. I have absolutely no problem with that. And to me, I'm like, maybe I'm just like such a hopeless romantic, but I'm like, do not prevent these two people who are in love from marrying each other.
Yeah, and even if it was like, okay, we did some testing, it doesn't look good, it's like, so
adopt.
Yeah, like who gives a shit? Or like, you know, you can have some of my shiksa eggs, mix it up. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
Not that my shiksa eggs are any good at this point because I'm 40 now, but you know.
I'm sure they're fine, Risdon.
You're very sweet.
No, truly, my friend told me that the studies that were done that are used to like refer to pregnancies over 35 as geriatric and also used to market like egg freezing companies the tests are from the 1800s.
Oh my God. That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's a doula. She learned that in her doula.
God, I love doulas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were saying like, there's a lot of religious text in, it looks like the Torah. Obviously I was most interested in like what the Catholics have to say about this, that they basically equated like child abuse and marrying your stepmother. They're like in the catechisms or whatever, it's considered the same, but like Islam, they've got a problem with it. Like it's in the books and it's also in the laws. And there's this idea that like, you know, I think like obviously the Greeks had a problem with it. We have that whole story of the guy who ends up with his mother and kills his dad. Is it Oedipus? Who is
Oedipus? Yeah. He kills his father, marries his mother.
Right, as foretold. So like but the Egyptians apparently were all commingling. Like they were like,
weren't the Greeks doing it too? I mean, or that was just pedophilia.
Yeah, I think they were really, there's a word specifically for it, what they were doing is called child grooming, but it was but not your own kid, them's the rules. Yeah, but the Egyptians, I think I just saw this briefly, so it might not be totally correct, but were like, because they were so like sanctimonious about royal bloodline and like whatever, that it was like totally chill to like have a baby with your kid or whatever. Like they were,
whoa.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's like, and it's in Darwin talks about it, Freud talks about it. So it goes back, and then more recently, like ethnographers and stuff, when they were doing all this like anthropology, I'm going to call it that, in like the 1800s, which is basically like white guys going to like Africa and being like, wow, like look at these people, you know, it's like really fucked up. Like early anthropology is crazy, but they were saying like there's this incest taboo that exists cross-culturally. And so they were trying to say, is that genetic? Like, is that innate in us, or is it constructed socially? And I think what's interesting is, if it is innate, why do we have laws? Like, obviously it can't be that innate, right? Like if we have to police it.
No, it must be innate. I mean, think about how many laws there are policing homosexuality, transness. Like,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
I think what I mean is the incest taboo is innate. Like
the taboo. Yeah. No,
yeah.
I mean the taboo I think is not innate.
So you don't believe it's constructed. Yeah.
Yes, I do. I do. And I think it's as I said, it's like a moralization of science based in like religious what am I trying to say? Like
they're policing based on a faith text, essentially. They're like saying like this is what God says, so that's why we have this law.
Right.
When really it's probably about creating my perspective is like we want able-bodied, work available progeny for it's all about America's an MLM. We live
What's
in
an MLM?
A pyramid scheme.
Oh,
America is a pyramid scheme, which is why we're going to be seeing more and more forced birth policies in this country. And they want, obviously, if you're going to not be able to work for 6 months to a year because you're pushing out a baby and chest feeding and all that shit,
then your baby better be
able to work and make some money for Bezos and Pelosi and whoever. So,
wow.
That's my feeling is they're like the reason we're enforcing this as a law is we don't want children that are, I don't even know what the correct terminology would be, but like not able-bodied or something.
Or able-minded. I mean, I think there's also like that. When you study like Western art history and you look at like the portraits of the royals and like their chins get wider and wider and their eyes get closer and closer together and like their noses go back. I mean, like this is what pugs are, they're inbred. Right. Isn't that funny though that like we do so much inbreeding with dogs because it's profitable.
And we like the way they look, which is, I don't know, maybe that's socialization, but yeah.
I don't like the way I mean, they make me so like, oh yeah, the jaw comes forward, like they end up with an underbite, and like you see this in the Spanish royal family and all the Velázquez paintings, but they weren't, anyway, whatever. I mean, the genetics behind it, I really think are like, I don't know, it reminds me of like when Descartes wrote his Meditations and he was being like backed by the church. And so he makes these like insane logical leaps to like prove the existence of God, where he like, starts with the dripping wax and then he just eventually he's like, so God exists. And it's like, I don't see how you got there. And like, I'm a believer, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, but that's not how I would do that.
Yeah. I came to the same conclusion, but our formula was
completely different.
And I kind of think your formula is whack as fuck. Yeah.
And you're like undermining your own point, I think, by like claiming to be doing this with like logic and reason. When, I mean, my take without getting too far into this is like, it's not about logic and reason. It's entirely about like feeling and being and like, the body.
Leave it to us to be like, let's talk about incest and end up talking about God.
I know.
Always.
I know. I mean,
please.
No. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to take us left.
To God? Away from God?
Away from God. To design genetics and intervention. So I recently started dating this woman and she really wants kids. And I'm the person who's biologically capable to have children in the relationship. And so we've been talking about, okay, so that means sperm donor. And it's interesting because she and I are genetically similar.
Wait, this is news to me and I'm so excited about this.
It's just like, we're talking like, this is not happening right now. This is happening like in 2 years. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, we'll see. God willing and the creek don't rise. But so she is also a white woman. She's from Western and Northern Europe, like me, I'm mostly. So in thinking about it, I'm like, look, we could just get a sperm donor that looks like you and then it looks like our baby. But obviously this isn't like, why would we do that? Like from a logical standpoint, if you want the best possible situation for your child, meaning the best preschools, the best diet, you're eating the best foods when you're pregnant, you're trying to create the best conditions in which to create a baby. Why wouldn't you also give them as much genetic diversity as possible so that all those alleles or whatever you get the cream of everything? You know what I mean? I'm like, why would we double down on
this like tiny area?
On just like, okay, more of Western and Northern Europe, please. Like, why would we do that when we could literally go gene shopping and buy whoever's the furthest from us, and then in theory you're getting the best, you're getting healthy, like the best system of everything, right? Yeah. But then it's interesting because we're two white lesbians we found somebody who's Nigerian because I love Nigerians. I have like I deeply love Nigerians, and I'm like, well, then we're the two white lesbians with the black baby, like classic, of course.
And this is when people turn off our podcast. It wasn't the incest, it wasn't the rape. It was two white lesbians having a black baby.
Honestly, I understand. I'm like, you are correct. Like, this is fucking crazy. It's crazy. But is it any more crazy than being like, I get to pick what genes I'm gonna pick, and you double down on, I'm sorry, my shitty ass genes, alcoholism, autism, sunburn, like what the fuck?
Sunburn.
You know what I'm talking about? Like deviated septums. I can't see for shit. I'm like legally blind. You know what I mean? Like what? Why? Like what? Do you know? Like why would I double down on those genes?
Yeah. I mean, complicated shit. Yeah.
So anyway, back to incest, something less complicated.
Anyway, okay, wait. There were a couple things that I just wanted to. First of all, my grandpa's parents were cousins. I feel this is important to say. I'm mostly fine.
I mean, you know, my dad's side of the family came over on one of the Mayflower voyages. Like,
oh wow.
Yeah, colonizers on my side. Like, not to brag. Anyway. But like, there was definitely some cousin stupping going on.
Oh my God.
There weren't that many fucking people here. You know what I mean? Like in terms of like culturally homogenous. You know what I mean?
I know.
Little villages. Yeah.
I know. I mean, people didn't used to be able to literally go very far. You know, like so everyone was kind of related. Okay, there was something that I mean, I kind of wanted to look at like the question of shame here because, well, and consent, obviously, because I think incest happens. It happens, right? It does. You can moralize it, you can make it taboo, you can put a stigma on it, you can make it illegal. It's still gonna happen. Same with drugs, same with butt sex. You can make it illegal.
People are gonna fuck in the butt.
Right. So then the question for me is like, when there's then shame around the fact that it happened either to you or that you are a baby, a child of, you know, like then we end up putting that on a child. And I have a story where this happened. I won't, you know, for anonymity, like it was like this was like occurring in a friend's step parents' family.
Sure.
Where there was a child and an uncle, and they began using drugs together. And that was really sad and tragic and fucked up. And then they ended up having 2 children. And I, like, my take on this, and my friend, like, reminded me of this, and I thought it was so amazing to see that, like, I don't know, it was a nice, this is just, like, an aside, but that, like, that my take on this has remained so consistent for so long, even before I was, like, doing the work that I do and stuff. But, like, she reminded me that so many years ago, I had said to her and her parent, like, well, it already happened, right? So the question is not like, was it okay? Or it wasn't okay, but that's like kind of irrelevant because now there are 2 children and they should not have to live with this shame and stigma. They should not, and they live in a small town, you know, like they should not have to carry the weight of ultimately what everyone else just like doesn't understand. So then the question is like, how do we support those kids? You know, like if people are going to know this about them, how do we make sure that they go on to lead like healthy lives and have like loving relationships?
Right. I mean, people are often born of less than ideal circumstances. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, if, I don't know, like, it's sort of irrelevant in a lot of ways. Like, I don't know how helpful this is, but I recently went home and I was in my mother's house and I was just like, this is so like inappropriate. Like, I'm just a grown-ass woman in another grown-ass woman's house asking her where she keeps the coffee. Like, what am I doing here? Do you know what I mean? Like, this attachment to family is sort of weird. I'm like, I'm not your kid. I'm a 40-year-old woman. Like, this is bizarre that I'm in your house. I'm like underfoot. And I feel like that's like a literal example, but like, obsession with origin, or being like, oh, like my conception was like, the product of incest and drug use and all this stuff. It's like, it doesn't really mean anything. You know what I mean? But we like to create these stories of meaning about our origin. Even like me being like, oh, my family's from here, or like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're getting at is a little bit, it's like related for me to this idea of like, it's just information, and then like the meaning is like what we make out of it. And I feel like when it comes to incest, there's been so much meaning made out of it. You were talking earlier about like, before we started recording, about like instances of incest in the animal kingdom. What did you say? Like rats?
Oh, it's like, it's for most animals, mammals, I guess, they will mate with their siblings. Like, they tend to prefer mating with non-siblings, but like they will mate with siblings. Like,
and dogs will fuck their kids.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So it does feel, and I'm talking like chimpanzees, primates too. They tend to have a little less. I mean, obviously bonobos they're all stuffing each other. You know what I mean? It's a big old mess over there. But like chimpanzees, I think there are like cases of like sibling and even mother-child, although it's like not as common. But yeah, like rats and things, they're stuffing each other all the time. And we use and to be like, oh, but they're rats. Like that's every animal study is done on rats to replicate human. Right. So it's like they're pretty similar to us,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was like, I remember this thought experiment from some philosophy class. I think it was probably my moral philosophy class. In college, where they were like, and this brings in the question of consent. It's like, if two consenting adults want to have sex, cool. Now they're right. But then let's say they're related, right? So like, if incest is considered wrong because of the genetic possibility of like problems, then let's say it's two people who can't have a baby, two, I'm going to be gender reductive, but like two men, two women, whatever.
Yeah.
Or one of them is sterile, or one of them has their tubes tied, or they don't plan on having kids, they're using condoms, or they've gone through menopause. Like, okay, so that's still, a lot of people still have the ick there. So then, okay, it's like not about the genetics, right? Then if it's about like the relationship that, you were raised together, or someone raised someone else. I mean, we look at like the Woody Allen situation, right? Like that gives me the ick, even though they're not biologically related.
Yeah.
And that's more about grooming, power dynamics. Yes.
We both said that at the same time.
Yeah. I mean,
but yeah,
like that to me is really icky. Like, you raised this person from the time they were a child. You were like formative in the person that they became.
You were a parent, you were a father figure. It's also like, what's wrong with you that you want to date someone that young is weird enough, but then for it to be somebody that you raised is
that like, right? Like that gives me the heebie-jeebies.
I'm absolutely gross. For people who aren't watching, I'm making the stankiest face you've ever seen in your life.
She looks like she smelled someone's disgusting poop. It's a person that she hates.
I hate in her this person's apartment. Poop. Yep, it's awful. I hate them and their poop. Yeah. Yeah, it's real icky.
Yeah, that really grosses me out.
I think a lot of times with the incest thing, it is the power dynamic thing, because I don't really get the ick as much when it's cousins, for example, like because there's some sort of,
because there's like an
thing.
equality. Yeah, like the power.
I sort of assume they're which is not necessarily true, but I'm like, oh, they're probably roughly the same age. Like that's what my brain does, which isn't always true.
I mean, I think you would not feel that way if it was like a 20-year older cousin to like a 15-year-old. But like, yeah, when you're talking about cousins, I know what you're talking about, that there's like a peer, they were kids together type of thing.
Right. And then when I was doing a little light research, my girlfriend was like, do you maybe want to put that on incognito mode before you go looking up? I was like, cool. Anyway, I forget what culture, it was an indigenous culture, and they had a rule that I thought was really interesting, which is that it's okay for a man to marry his older sister, but not his younger sister. Like that's the fine print on the incest rule in their culture. And I was like, oh, because of power dynamics.
Well, that also speaks to a perceived power dynamic amongst genders.
Yes.
In that particular culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, oh, a woman couldn't possibly groom her brother.
Right.
Oh, please. Yeah, she could.
Yeah,
have you met women? They're fucking evil. Yeah.
I was thinking, I mean, this is like a total tangent, but like just the way that like older siblings just basically abuse younger siblings. Like that just like, they terrorize them. They scream at them. They tell them they're so fucking annoying. They tell them like, you're never gonna, like I was such an asshole to my sister. I mean, she still blames me for it even though we're in our 30s. But like, I just watch siblings sometimes and I'm like, wow, like this is so fucked up. Like if a friend spoke this way or if a parent spoke this way or,
Yeah, I feel like that's really true of families too. It's like and it's good and bad. Like my matrilineal side of the family, they're fucking unhinged Irish Catholic people, and I adore them. And the chaos is bananas. And if you like chaos, it's a fun ride. But like the things that people say to each other, you know what I mean? And like I remember being like 20 and slapping my 15-year-old brother across the face. Like violence was very normalized. Again, Irish Catholic. I have since apologized to him for it. But like, so I don't know how old he was. It doesn't matter. Anyway, but I think he was 18 and I was like 30. I think that makes more sense. But anyway, yeah, so there's this thing of like unconditional love where you can treat each other to a certain degree and still bounce back. But the bad side of that is that what I notice, and I don't know if this is true in your family too, is it's sort of like someone in my family is getting married, and this woman was born to be bridezilla. I'm just going to say that. Like when she was like 4 years old, my mother and I were like, this chick is going to be the worst bridezilla this world has ever seen. It's now starting. We're all bracing. But it's like when she's being completely fucking inappropriate and awful, there's a sort of like, well, what are you going to do? And it's like, well, I'm going to tell her to knock it the fuck off. That's what I'm going to do. But there's this sort of culture of being like, we're family, so we therefore can't call each other out because we're just supposed to accept or something, which I don't.
Or you do call each other out and it doesn't sting the way that it does. Sometimes there's that too, where it's like you can call your sibling a fucking heinous bitch to their face, and then you like wake up the next day and you're like, do you want some coffee?
Right, and you're like in her wedding.
Right, exactly.
Right, but it's like, I'm kind of like, yo, like, can we maybe like do some repair work before we ask people to be in the wedding that we've been like insane to in this family? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And apparently I'm the crazy one.
Right.
For that. Yeah.
Well, that tracks with what I know about your family. Okay, I wanted to bring up Gossip Girl because that's the show that I'm watching right now.
Go piss, girl.
I can't stop watching it. I was gonna only watch the first season and then I just kept going.
Quick question. Are we talking like the original?
No, original.
Okay,
original.
Thank God. Because I haven't seen
Oh my God, no, the new one is awful.
Like it's not even fun garbage, just garbage.
No. It's really, really, really bad. Really, really bad.
Boo.
Yeah.
Stop remaking shows. Just stop. Like, please.
Or like do it new and better. Like this was just, it was so bad. I couldn't watch it. I really couldn't watch it. Excuse me. So Okay, so I was watching Gossip Girl. Spoiler alert. Gossip Girl. Okay, so Serena and Dan are dating and they're in love and it's going really well. Their parents, so for a while the kids don't know that their parents used to date like many, many years ago, and they still kind of have this like ongoing, you know, hold a candle for each other. And then the kids find out, and then the parents are like about to possibly like run away together, and they might get married. And you know, as a viewer, we're like, oh my god, like this is such a great love story, like please, yay. And to me, because I guess I have weird thoughts on incest, I'm like, oh, how cute. You know, your parents and the kids, they're dating. That's so cute.
You're like, do a double wedding.
Right. But then Serena is like, to her mom, she's like, please don't do this because this thing with Dan like means a lot to me. It's really important to me. And I don't want to, it's basically somewhere in there. It's like, I don't want to be his sister. And I'm like, chill the fuck out, Serena. Like, you're not suddenly related.
Right.
Because,
and
like,
also, you're in high school, babe. It's
right.
not gonna work out.
I know. They break up shortly later. But anyway, so I'm thinking, like, what if this happened in the reverse? Like, how often does that happen? Like, I start dating someone, we introduce our parents, two of them fall in love. Like, that's happened in the world. That doesn't make us retroactively in an incestual relationship. Like, as soon as you start breaking this stuff down, the logic just crumbles.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody would be like, oh my god, your parents got married after you'd been married for 5 years, so now you're like, you know, you're half siblings or what? It's like
step siblings.
Thank you. I'm like,
no.
All right, sure, fine.
That's, yeah,
whatever.
like,
okay,
legally, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine my mother falling in love with anyone I've dated. Parents, it just doesn't seem possible. I don't think any of them had enough money, frankly.
That's funny. I mean, my parents are still together, but like I could, you know, obviously this is like, there's a world in which this happens.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
I think there might even be a movie about it.
Oh,
Isn't there a movie about it?
Somebody's screaming in their Subaru right now.
I know.
They're driving and they're like, yeah.
It's not Meet the Fockers, and it's not Two Weddings and a Funeral. It's not, wait, what's the one with Diane Keaton? Does she end up marrying the
Father of the Bride?
No. Father of the Bride. I don't remember. Someone knows.
Yell louder. We can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear you. Future listeners. I don't know, Risdon, anything else you want to say on that? I feel like we kind of wrapped it up. Gossip Girl. XOXO.
XOXO. No, incest. I don't know. Y'all need to find something else to be weird, upset about. I don't know. Incest. Is it so bad? I don't know.
Is it so bad? I mean, there's like porn galore.
Oh my god, how did we not talk about this?
I know. Yeah, oops.
Well, and so, you know, Pornhub releases their data, which is like my fucking Christmas. I'm like, what's everybody watching? I just find it really fascinating because I'm a sex nerd. And you know who loves like stepsister porn more than anybody? White people. White people are the people consuming incest porn, which I'm like, that's fascinating. Like, this is apparently like a kind of a white people thing. Which I'm like, that's interesting. I don't know.
That is interesting.
I don't know what that's about. I can't even begin to speculate.
Me neither.
I'm like, what is that? Is it because we don't do multi-generational homes? It's just mom, dad, kids. Like,
yeah, we're like, there should be more people in here.
We need more people in this house. Yes, let's make some. Yeah, or just because like there isn't, you know, an auntie or a grandma in the house, so there's more. You know, well, here's the thing. It's like a lot of the concept is like older brother is babysitting or older sisters. But I guess if you have a grandparent in the house, you don't have to babysit your siblings, right? So maybe that's why it's like culturally white. I don't know. But it's fascinating to me that it's like, this is like a white people genre.
That is really weird. What's that about, guys?
White people are broken. Everybody, yeah, it's like this, yeah, you know, incest.
Yeah. I don't know why. Like, I'm like, is there something wrong with me that I don't think this is that weird?
Maybe it's because we're white. Maybe that's why. We're both like, what's the big deal with incest? And everybody else is like, y'all are fucking crazy. We're like, oh, it's because we're white.
Huh. Well.
We accidentally made a white supremacy episode. Oops.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, I did say the thing about that I think I should get inseminated by a Nigerian because his genes are better than white people's.
I think that is the most likely thing for you to ever get canceled about.
God, I would love to be canceled by the right. Are you kidding?
By the right?
By the right. Like by like extremist, like
white nationalists. It's only the left. The left cancels people. The right, when you get canceled, the right is like, are you ready to come over here? Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what happens.
They're like, come on in, babe. We've got catered meals and guns.
Yeah. The people who are most likely to cancel you are the people who agree with you on 99 out of 100 points.
Right. But when you disagree with them, it's literal violence.
Literal
violence. It's my favorite expression, by the way.
Oh my God.
Someone calling themselves stupid is literal violence.
Literal violence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. I think we have to stop or I'm just gonna go forever.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, love you, bye.
Happy birthday, Risdon.
Thanks.
Love you, bye. XOXO.
XOXO, incest
Gossip girl.